Swinburne University of Technology.
In this video we are going to look at an introduction on how to program our own function in R. I'm doing this in RStudio, partly just to be showing you RStudio, but also because when we're writing a function it's normally going to have a number of lines of code, and so this way it's much easier for us to keep track of our lines of code up here, and then down here to have our R prompt and console to see what's going on. To get my blank page here, I went File and just New R script. One of the nice things with this is I've got these buttons over here where I can run, so the run button will give me run just the current line, or if I select a number of lines I could hit run to do all of them. I've also got source, and we've got a little tab here, source and source with echo. Source will copy this whole whatever's in this entire file down to the command prompt. Echo will do it, and it'll also show you in the command prompt as well. So here's my first function, and funnily enough I've titled it my first function, and the way that we write a function is using a function called function. So normally our function is going to have multiple lines of code. So we're going to start off and we're going to give it a name, and then we're going to have an assignment, and then we have our function, and we'll normally then have some curly brackets, and they are going to tell R that all of this code in between them is all part of this function. So they're going to be important as our functions get bigger. Okay, so my very first function is pretty boring. It just is going to print R is great. The other thing that I want to point out is this line here. You can see it has a hash on the front of it, and you can see it's coloured in green. Anytime we have a hash on the front, that's a comment. When we're writing functions, and particularly as we write larger functions, it's going to be really important that we have comments reminding ourselves and any future users what the function does. Okay, so let's go source. If we go source with echo, we can see that shows us what it copied down. And if we try and run my first function, remembering my brackets, then it prints out R is great. So that was okay, but not very flexible. So what we could do is we could add some arguments to my function. So arguments get placed inside our round brackets up here in our function. And so maybe what we could do is, instead of just printing out R is great, we can print out whatever argument gets given to the function. So change our comment, and so whatever we give our function, it's going to print that out. Okay, so let's send that down to our command prompt, so it's overwritten the old one, and so now when I run my first function, I'm going to have to give it some text for a message. So you can see I ran my first function and it printed out the message that it gave me. However, if I don't give it anything, it's going to get upset because I didn't give it any message. You can see that there's no default. So what we can do when we're writing our functions, sometimes we can't have a default, but if we wanted to have a default, then we just put an equals and whatever. It could be a number or a vector, or it could be all sorts of things. In this case it's just going to be some text. So my first function, and so the default is that it's going to print out hi. My message equals hi, so when it goes print my message it'll print out hi, unless we give it something different. So let's use our source button, we'll send it down. So I can still just give it whatever message and it'll print it out. But now if I don't give it a message, it prints out hi, so we've given it a default argument. So this can be really handy where you have options in your function that someone may or may want to use.
This has been a Swinburne production.